entry-level things. It's like $90 to join. It's like $10 per hole. That's just to kind of get on their roster. And then to be involved with the handicap system and some of the other benefits, it starts out at $600. And then that includes kind of a free handicap fee for like 20 players. It costs like $20
Yeah, thanks.
to have your handicap on your system. So they've got an entry-level thing for $600.
Thank you.
So presumably, we're going to need more than 20 players to be able to keep their handicaps. Does that cost more? Is that it?
Well, it's something that, members might want to do. I don't know. Yeah, basically that's kind of the threshold is 20 players to get on their system. And
But what I mean is, do we have to, is that basically $30 a member? So if we wanted to buy 40 or 80, we would multiply that times $30, or is it something
We
different?
haven't started yet.
Yeah, I think that he was saying it was for, I guess it would be 30. I thought it was 20 for some reason. I thought he was saying 20, 25, but yeah, there's a fee for being on their system.
So-
and whether we charge golfers for that or, whatever. If we add that for a service, I guess that's up to us.
Probably be tidier just to add $20 to the season fee and call it good. And just not give people a choice. Then they'll use it.
Yeah, we could do that. Something like that.
Do we also have to buy a computer, or do we have one that will address the issue?
Well, we probably have to set something up. I don't think it'd have to be too elaborate, We probably have some old computers down at headquarters down at the office. We could probably grab. All you really need is an internet connection and a screen and a keyboard, It's not like we're going to be running. They have it's like one software program that they run.
I suspect that the MGA will provide consulting to you on that if you ask.
Yeah, it sounded pretty interesting. I just talked to the manager there briefly, and it sounded like they had, it's pretty good. Sounds like a pretty good program. Sounds like it's very popular.
Well, if you need further action from us, let us know. Otherwise, it would be cool to have this going for next season, right?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and join up with the $90 fee thing. I'll give them one more call to make sure that's if I can use that low perimeter just to start with, because we want to get on their roster, and they print them. They kind of at the end after December they kind of start their new information for next year, and we'll want to be on that.
And I assume that we'll have some marketing benefit, because then the MGA will show us as one of the golf courses that is part of them when people are looking for a place to play up here.
Yeah, there's things that he had kind of skirted over as far as possible, if we wanted to host tournaments or things like that. I guess I'd have to see what all the merit to that is. And
Okay, well, why don't you bring us back to something, by March or something like that? Makes sense?
yeah. Yep.
Okay, great. All right, everybody's here. Call the meeting to order. The agenda was set out to all of you. Does anybody want to add anything to it or amend it in any way?
No.
No suggestions, so we'll deem the agenda approved unanimously. You also have the minutes from the November meeting. Does anybody have any cavills about that? Hearing nothing, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second? Somebody?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The minutes of the November meeting are approved. The first item on the agenda is the golf course report, and there's an executive summary, which everybody got copies of. I think I got an extra copy. It's 4 pages. What would you like to highlight from that, Paul?
Well, it's, there's just a lot of, it seems like things are going pretty well. I think I kind of highlighted that I was a little bit concerned with how, last year was going to be, because just with trends and things, and it turned out to be good. It was real positive. So, I think in a nutshell, I think play's getting stronger up at Gunflint, and there's still things, lots of little things we can do to make improvements, so that that's good. I think it looks good. We've got some a few challenges as far as infrastructure and equipment and things like that, but those are always kind of ongoing, and but for me it's the main challenge there's been the staff, and that's been really good. I've been really lucky there, so that's really helped us be able to build, and so like I say, I think we've got some things that we can improve on, and just some little enhancements, like I was talking about doing some little more food things up there. We've got things we can look at as far as improvements on the driving range, or if there was something we could do to embellish the porch situation. I think that'd be great. It takes a lot of planning and a lot of hardware, I guess, to do something like what I'm thinking on the back porch there. But if we want to get a little more activity up there rather than just people hopping into play, in and out and things like that, if we can make it a little more inviting, a few more things to do, a little more things to hang out, earn a little more revenue. I think that those are doable.
That sounds to me like you're about ready to come forward with some sort of plan to decide which of those things to do first.
Yeah.
I don't mean tonight, but
Right. Yeah. I think that. The one thing that I need to revisit, and I believe that the people from the health department are down in Duluth here. I think that the inspectors are around here. I'm going to try to drop in on them and have a meeting with them and see what the parameters are of that, what we need to do to get the next stage on our liquor license. Because we were right there. We were just like one facsimile away from getting our license, and it got kind of pushed off by the health department. Evidently, they've got a whole protocol that we have to follow, and it just it's confusing because you have to draw out a plan, but I'm not exactly sure what they're requiring. They've got an outline in a paper form, a draft of their outlines, but it's really wide open. I'm gonna have to go in there, and actually it would be best if they just came out there and told us what we need to do, but I guess I'll probably just start by just trying to visit them and see if they'll talk to me on that level.
so that's the liquor license issue. I thought
Yeah.
your idea of having some kind of a practice facility that was in addition or a part of the driving range made a lot of sense in terms of, working out of the sand or something like that.
Yeah, it would be neat, and I guess my just my little thoughts on this are, if you have a facility like that, you could try to make a program, a teaching program. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. You could just cover different parts of the swing or the game or different elements for people to practice, and then just have little sessions where you come in and go over those little things at different times of the season, just intermittently. But yeah, really the main thing is that if people want to improve, they have to practice. We've got a nice driving range there, but you can't just have a pro come up there and show everybody how to work the ball a little bit and then go away and everybody's going to shoot lower scores. That's not how it works.
Anybody else have comments or questions before we let him go?
I could just add one minor clarification to the revenue in his second paragraph when he's talking about the gross receipts for 21 and 22. The 181 and the 163, I believe, are pre-tax, so an amount that isn't what we actually realized because of what we pay out in taxes. Once I checked our actual slips and, revenue coming in through Kim, the finance director, we were corrected downward to a 2021 total of 169,000 and a 2022 total of a little over 150,000.
Right. So did I note those as gross?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I guess I should have probably just put what the net was too. But
So the difference is
the point I
the
was
tax we
making
have to
was
pay to the
just
state sales tax?
that's right.
Okay.
in relative to the other seasons was kind of the point.
Okay, well, maybe by March, we can also have whatever you propose to do for the next season in terms of improvements to the place.
Yeah.
And we'll also
I
have
mean,
to set rates.
Yeah, we can set rates then. Yeah, some of the improvements and things, we have to kind of wait and see what we're handed in the spring as far as issues to deal with. But yeah, I mean the improvements I'm talking about aren't real difficult. It just takes time. So, if we come through the season good and we don't have a lot of winter damage and that sort of thing, then it's great. And we have time to make improvements like that. Like last year, we just had a lot of challenges with those with the irrigation leaks. It's really interesting when things are buried underground, But
If you get to a point where you want to do something outside that would take a lot of hand labor, I suspect we could get some of it for free from the members.
yeah, I don't know. There's probably a way to do that. My recall is just coming into this job, there's something different about it being a city-run course. It's kind of a union deal, and there's can't even have volunteers, or that kind of stuck in my recall. I'd have to check on those sort of things. It's kind of different.
I think
Yeah,
so.
we'd sure appreciate the help, but I'm not sure if we can ask for volunteer work like that.
You might give the manager at Silver Bay a call. That's a city-owned course as well, and I understand that they have a fairly active bunch of volunteers, but I don't know the details.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can talk to Norma.
Anything else from anybody?
Well, Paul, I just want to congratulate you on another successful season. Really well done up there, really in your third year. Clearly turned the course around. Everything's been improving ever since Paul's been on board, so we're really lucky to have him and his team.
Cool.
Thank you.
I certainly agree with that, and I thought the report was nice and thorough to boot.
Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. And hope you guys have a good Christmas and all that.
You too.
All right.
Your report is noted as received. Thank you.
Take care.
The next item is the city council report. Craig?
Yeah, well, we didn't really have a
whole lot of stuff on our agenda, other than we did have we had a special meeting, well, coinciding with the last meeting on the liquor store, City Hall. We did have a presentation from LHB, kind of going back over all the things that we looked at in previous meetings from the last, I guess, three years, you know. COVID, we kind of stopped talking about it. But now we're back, taking a look at potential designs, what we need, what's important, what can we do without, and basically just kind of trying to arrive at some type of workable budget or price that this facility may cost.
Is there any timeline on the council's notions of that issue?
Not in 2023.
Okay.
We're kind of, because materials, stuff like that is still, you have to be really ahead of the curveball when you start ordering stuff. I know
So
that
not construction, but you...
not construction is gonna happen in 2023.
But
I would
but-
say if anything's gonna happen solid, it would be 2024.
And the decision-making would be done during the next year.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. On that. Other than that, our next meeting, I can't remember if we set the budget, our next meeting, or the meeting at the end of, we'll probably set the budget before our last meeting, I would think. So our next meeting is gonna be more budget finalizing for the city and where to set that at. So I think preliminary, we had set a preliminary budget that I think had an increase of 5.7%, and that would be the maximum that we could go with our increase. And I think we're gonna be under that, so we'll be discussing that more at our next council meeting next week. And now that we have the liquor store budget finalized at our last meeting, we can plug that into all the departments and see where we are.
And is our budget done also?
Yeah, we went through that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, that was done when we had a meeting, was that 3 meetings ago?
Mhm.
3 meetings ago? We did the department heads. The only thing we didn't do at that time was the liquor store, which we did at our last meeting, so.
Do I gather that your colleagues on the council were happy with the Park and Rec Board's
Oh, yeah.
performance?
The performance of the park actually ended up being pretty much what our increases were that we set the previous year. So we came in with that extra money, which kind of was nice, you know, to meet our goals.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
I have a question about that. Is the park board budget something that then we see once the city's budget is set, or?
Not so much, Kay. You know, I work on it in August and September
Uh-huh.
and present to city council then after, like late September, I think I was in front of them. So it's really something we do in the summer.
Okay,
And historically, it's, you know, park board's a bit isolated from that process, or doesn't have the real numbers in front of you
right,
at all times.
right.
We can certainly include that next.
Well, I was just
Round.
curious when I was, reading the golf course report and then just thinking about historically how the pool used to be such a drain, pardon the pun,
Yeah.
on
Just to see where
on the budget, and I thought, well, the golf course isn't quite, they don't, they're doing better, but they're not making their, however you say that, their revenue's not meeting their expenses, and so then does the campground just automatically offset that? Yeah, I guess I just was curious about it, and I wasn't sure if we had any, well, I guess it seems like if we're gonna make any recommendations about purchases,
Yeah.
it'd be interesting, I mean, we should know, like,
Right.
how things,
I get a copy of that. Right now, I have it in here somewhere, but, like, here's, something I forgot to talk about that was on a meeting too, was the fire, Ben Silence from the fire department came before us, and these are some things that we haven't adjusted within the fire department for many years, even when I was in the fire department, and I had 20-some years in. We haven't increased pay that we pay the fire chief or the secretary, so we did make a vote to increase that annual payment to them. We did a little change in that, which basically, you know, when you boil it all out, basically the fire chief is making $29 a week. You know?
Wow.
I mean, that's when you figure it out. So it's like not a big increase, but it's an increase that we really did need to do based on all the extra work and paperwork that they have to do now compared to, let's say, 10 years ago. You know, I mean, the training.
$29 increase?
No, that's, yeah, well, when a firemen get called in for a fire, I think they were getting paid $10 for a recall. Like if the alarm goes off and you gotta run to the fire hall, get in a fire truck and take off, you get paid $10.
Wow.
That fire could last 7 hours that night.
Yeah.
Okay. We doubled that to $20
Oh.
for every fire call.
Kind of like jury duty.
Yeah, so and then the fire chief basically ends up to a $29 a week
Yeah.
fee that we pay 52 weeks a year, and so the volunteer firefighter budget, I guess, for 2023 is going to be like $10,500. That's projected based on average of calls that we have over the last few years. I mean, calls could go up, they could go down. So there's a little bit of a change there, but that wasn't really a big budget change in our eyes. Something that we needed to do to be more competitive with what other volunteer fire departments are doing.
Even with the increases, that sounds cheap.
Well, yeah, I think, and then this is something else that, again, has been overlooked for many years. So now what we're gonna do, it's gonna get plugged in every year as a line item, budget item. So we see this and we can make decisions on whether we need to increase it based on hours getting put in by the chief, what's mandated by the state, what the city needs. So we look at it more of a, you know, and it also helps, trying to get numbers. You know, do we have enough guys on the department? I think we have about half of the number of guys that were on it compared to when I was on it. I mean, we had 22, 23 volunteer firemen, and I think now we have, I don't know what the total number is right now, do you know? 13? So we're, you know, we're running about.
So I should remember this, but, it's the city council's prerogative to decide, like, the profits from the park department, where that goes. I mean.
Yeah, we're just
how-
general revenue for the city.
Right.
Right,
Some of the money goes,
right.
like, for instance, the liquor store.
Between the liquor store and the park.
Yeah, the liquor store puts about 200,000 a year in to offset property taxes.
Sure.
The park,
Sure.
I'm not sure what that number.
About 700,000 or more?
Well, no, it's, budgeted one way and then it finishes another, and there's where the levy's always
The levy
adjusted
adjusts for that.
accordingly
Like
and
the-
usually down
Yeah,
because of, what we would call overperformance of the revenue.
right.
Just like I'm about to report, where our revenue came up about 9% over budget, it's about $100,000. And that extra money is property tax relief.
Right.
But really, the bulk of the money, it could be close to $500,000 is our net, after expenses, what the park department contributes to the general fund. And it's not really parceled out into different expenditures, it's just in the general fund. And it's property tax relief.
Sure.
It's less money that needs to be collected from the tax base.
So then if the park has a major expense, then
We have
goes to
that,
the city council to,
But then the
Yeah.
park also has a
a capital
a
improvement
capital
fund.
improvement fund
That-
that money gets put into that every year.
that a set amount, that
Right.
the council, city council decides a
Right.
set amount.
That's right. That's part of our expense budget is capital funding to the tune of approximately $170,000 per year.
Something happened to
Wow.
the picture and
Oh,
He's still there.
He might have checked out.
I think he's the only one on the call. I think.
he's talking.
there we go.
So, yeah, so when we're looking at our preliminary draft budgets in August, we plug in expense numbers, and, staff, supplies, insurance, et
Right.
cetera. Three of those numbers are capital expenditures for buildings, construction, and equipment. And they're, healthy numbers, $80,000 for buildings, $50,000 for construction. Those then get paid into this dedicated fund of capital improvements. If and when we want to spend from that, we bring our proposals to city council for approval.
Yeah, good. Thank you for explaining that.
So and just a question
Is
about,
that, go ahead.
about your budget. So you did the preliminary budgets in August, but we did these rate increases last month. So do you go back and adjust the budget for those rate increases then?
Somewhat, yeah. City council does that in their final levy approval.
Yeah, we could go in and do projections, kind of
Okay.
like we did with the liquor store. We tried to project, like cost of goods for the liquor store. There's been a lot of increases, so we kind of projected, okay, what are those, we do the same sales, what are those costs gonna be? Then we look at how we gonna end up with the final budget for next year with the liquor store. So we do the same thing with the rec park. Okay.
Very much so, with the park revenue being unknown in August,
Right.
because we're only halfway through the season, we have some trends. We know we're up 3%, so we know we'll finish 1.5 million. And based on that, they set that preliminary levy, I think early, like in October, at whatever it was, close to 5%.
Right.
But then once our season wraps and we know we made 1.5, and we also know we increasing our rates next year 3%, well, that's gonna be another 50,000 if everything's,
Is that 1.5 million net of all the expenses?
it's gross. It's
a
not
gross,
net.
So the net that goes to the city is more like about 700, 800,000 bucks?
500, maybe 700, and like 21 was a really good year. And we purposely conservative estimate for revenue, just in case we don't get there because of weather and gas and recession. So it's generally 300, 400, 500,000 is the net. But once that is known, once our season's complete in October and we know we made X amount, there's generally an overperformance because of our conservative revenue estimate. And obviously expenditures are a part of that, but if we keep expenses on track, yeah, it's a good amount. It's, $500,000 of net. And then the levy can be dialed down because of overperformance, because of rate increases that we know, all things being equal, will do better next year because of rate increases. But it's really just a guide, is, what I've been told, in which we know about a budget. It's just a projection. And there's a lot of variables.
It probably would be a good thing when you do the submission to the city to just run it, I don't think we're looking for approval of it, but just for us to see it as it goes in,
Sure.
then we wouldn't ask so many stupid questions.
No, we should do that in July and August, yeah. And that's the time too to decide, should we fund more into the capital? If we know we've got
Something's
$1
coming.
million projects coming,
Right.
that's our chance to really adjust some of those bigger numbers.
Okay, any other thoughts
you.
about the city council report? Then it would be your turn, David, for the parks report.
Well, thanks, Steve. So everyone's got a copy here of December report, just what we've been talking about. Finishing numbers, revenue was strong. We finished at approximately 1.5 million. It's about 9% over our estimate, or our projection. It's about $100,000 more. It's a good thing for the revenue, for the levy to be effectively brought down. Expenditures are hard to track because it's more than just a 12-month calendar, but they're on track. We've been doing well. We haven't had any major expenses. We did some good capital improvements this last year with paving. That was a pretty significant spend, maybe $60,000 on new pavement. And then planning fees were high for the landing, for the community connection landing. Like, we did get the bill for all that planning from CJ, and it was close to $25,000. But yeah, I mean, interesting comparisons between years. 2021, just like the golf course, was a high water mark. Very, very strong. Occupancy was up, revenue was up as a result. But the weather was a big, big difference, I felt, between 21 and this past season, 22. There's just no doubt that 21 was one of those hot, dry, early starts. In May, it was hot and dry and ran all the way to October. And 22 was much different. It was a very cold spring, very slow start, wet. June and July was cool. You know, we're surprised that we came out even on occupancy and up 3% on revenue, really due to the rate hike. So, a good lesson in budgeting. But again, I always thank our staff. Our success is totally dependent on having the excellent staff that we have. The full-timers, Samantha and Aaron, as office manager and facilities manager, really do a really good job with keeping the department running smoothly, keeping our seasonals happy. And the other city departments certainly support us, the power department, the water department, city hall staff. It's a great team. I'm really proud to be a part of it. I always express my gratitude this time of year, especially the park board, the city council. We couldn't really do this without you all, so thank you.
Ditto.
Big party a couple weeks ago on the Oli night was a success. Friday the 25th was a nice, I think, warmer evening, 40 degrees for the parade at 5:30, and the tree lighting in Harbor Park was successful. The tree lit up this year, all of it.
Where'd the tree come from?
The PUC guys found it on the edge of town, west side of town, I understand. It was
Oh,
just
Good.
plucked
Sitting
out
there.
of the right of way, perhaps.
Yeah.
I didn't get all the details, but it's a very nice looking tree.
No one's missing
It is.
one, no.
And we want to thank those guys for setting it up and dressing
No
it. You know, their
complaints.
bucket truck does all the work on that. We did get a few offers from our crowdsourcing, like, campaign through
Aw.
Visicook County. You know, they were putting it out to anyone with a tree nearby. And one of them was like a landscaping company that had I think they're out of the Twin Cities, but one of their relatives are up here, and they said, we'll, you know, donate a tree that we've been featured in the state fair even, so.
wow.
Yeah, it
Next
came in
year.
after the fact, but I said
Yeah.
next year for sure.
Yeah.
So that was fun to see, and I think a big crowd for that downtown, you know, 300 to 500 people was the estimate.
Wow.
Not bad for a Friday night in November. Just got some news from the DNR, some good news, that they've been working on the new docks for the public water access. And as we thought earlier in the season, how we've got a deeper ramp, a bigger ramp, able to provide for bigger boats. We've got this idea of a custom 45-foot roll-in dock that'll be fabricated and delivered in the spring. And we had the option to get 2 of these 45-footers, but I didn't want to crowd the basin in there, and like the turning radiuses and everything about the size inside that protected area was such that we really don't need 2 45s. And especially the one on the west side sticking out farther, it's just going to be a standard 30-foot, but new. And then on the east side, the one closer to the wall would be the 45-footer. So I think that'll please everybody in terms of the smaller trailable boats. That most boats using that ramp are under 25 feet, and the 30-foot will be just adequate. The 45 will certainly be there and available, and that's more designed for like the 30-plus foot boats that are not very common. But those will be delivered in the spring, and we're still working on the barrier-free access kayak dock ramp. There was provisions for that, for a non-motorized watercraft ramp that's ADA compliant. And so working with Kevin Johnson down in Two Harbors on that.
And where's that gonna go?
On the west side as well.
Of that break wall?
Yeah, in the basin, but to the
Uh-huh.
west of the 2 roll-in docks,
Okay.
towards the pavilion area. And we'll also do some woodwork in terms of a screening for the porta potty, a screen changing station for the kayakers, open air. And I'd really like to improve the steps and the deck that,
Oh,
you know, access
Look out.
the bench up on the rocks. Those are the stuff down there's pretty rotted out and
That'd be cool.
ready for a redo. So those are some winter woodworking projects, or spring. But it's good to have that ramp and that project in place. I think it's one of those significant accomplishments of the last 2 seasons that we're really pleased. And then finally, the reservations for June opened earlier this last week, was it? Yeah. Yeah, the December 1st opened up June reservations. We had a little bit of surprise that morning when the Book Your Site machine wasn't quite configured to our liking. And this is due to like staff turnover within that group. The Book Your Site people, one of their key members, Christina was her name, left. And she had been providing some real custom services to us in terms of our booking calendar, how we would have a like open block of dates for the entire month, with the option to wrap around at the end of that month, was not something that they were used to doing. It was something Christina was doing on her own for us. And when she left, she took that scheme with her. And they simply reinstated their standard 180-day rolling date scheme. That's very common, I think, with a lot of these booking sites. You know, Reserve America uses the same concept where you have the day 180 days in advance you can book, and they didn't have it open for June. Or if they did, it was just June 1st. And so, you know, lucky Sam and I were in, and the phones were busy again, and we're giving old-fashioned service to folks and it was really, you know, diehard folks. We would, I think, recognize most of the people calling that first hour or two, same families that call every year or book every year for late June through early July. Because of the 4th of July holiday. That was most of the action on that opening day. And we were able to connect with Book Your Site and the new guy, well, not new, but the people who are now doing Christina's work are gonna work with us, hopefully be able to replicate that model of the open block of dates with the wraparound option. That's really our project right now, is to get that sorted for January 1st. Because as we know, that's going to be a much, much busier day with the July dates and then the Fisherman's Picnic weekend being available to depart when you book in January. You can book late July through early August. So we'll hopefully get that shaken out. But the future looks like this 180-day rolling date. It'll be the best standard, safest scheme to book with. We just needed the season to alert our people to this. We couldn't just switch it over now, having already passed out our policies all summer long.
If
So,
the computer's only gonna permit us to go 6 months from today and not after that, do we wanna offer people the service if they call the office for these oddball requests?
well, it's got to be consistent. So no, we don't want to make exceptions. So we're still trying to stick with what we advertised, which was open block of the entire month. And they're still going to be able to provide this season. But the future forward thinking is, you know, this coming season, starting in May and certainly in June, July, August, when we see these same people and they ask like, how is it going to book next year? We're going to have, I think, a change. We're going to go to that 180-day rolling date, which will really disperse demand, and yet you can still book 2 weeks, you know, so you could, you know, once July 30th opens up, you can do a 14-night deal. So we feel it'll be effective, especially if it's kind of industry norm. It's what people are used to at other parks. It's really something to evolve with, as well as the software itself. I think I touched on this at a previous meeting. This group that we work with, Asperia, has bought out another group, Firefly, and moving forward, we may be in a whole new software even next booking season. Starting next November is when we would roll out this Firefly software for booking. It's more user-friendly, it's more intuitive. It's just the evolution of the machine.
So Firefly, I mean, Book Your Site, Firefly is a part of that, or on Book Your Site, or Book Your Site's on Firefly, or?
Well, Book Your Site is a function of Asperia uses Book Your Site, But it seems
Okay.
like soon they'll use Firefly. And Firefly uses Reserve America, which is like the even bigger machine that the state parks or federal national parks use. Still some details to be worked out. Lots of details.
And how long have you been with this?
All along, really. So the group became, it started out mission management. Campground manager was our old software. The same group upgraded to Asperia. So it's the same people, they just keep evolving and buying
Right.
companies and getting bigger and hopefully better.
2,000 is where we got it.
Other
2000.
comments or questions about the park report? I have one question about the community connection that we kind of tabled last summer. Are there any developments on that, or do we want to plan to have it be an item on the agenda sometime between now and the spring?
I don't have any developments. In talking with Mike Roth, the administrator, we don't necessarily know the future of that project. We would maybe hopefully include it in this master planning discussion, would be the right place and time for that. So I think it'll certainly be on the agenda or talked about once we kick off this idea of a renewed, reviewed, amended master plan.
You had talked, last time we were talking about this subject, about maybe finding some way to break it up into parts or to wait till the prices went down, or, as I take it, we haven't had any success on that front at this point.
No, we haven't. We haven't talked to CJ about it. We doubt prices have come down. Intuitively, we feel like we don't want to break it up into parts. The CEC in particular, the Creative Economic Collaborative, is supportive of the project. They want to find funding for it. They want to help it succeed as a whole and as an original design.
So it sounds like we'll be applying for a grant, or somebody will be, or maybe more than one grant from somewhere or another.
If necessary, yeah, if we want to see it through.
It sounds like the sociological effects of the project are such that it might be of interest to somebody.
Yeah, it's a big piece. It's a big piece of the master plan, and I think it'll get quite a bit of talk when we open that back up for priorities and expenditures and funding.
Other thoughts or comments before we move on? Okay, old business, I know of none. Does anybody know of any old business? New business, recreation area master planning request for proposals.
Yeah, so something we've been alluding to, talking about for a while now, the need to review, revise, and amend the 2009 Rec Park Master Plan. So I sent out this draft RFP, which was about 75% boilerplate as far as instructions to proposals, proposal contents. So items, 1 and 2 are pretty much boilerplate stuff I got from City Hall based on other RFPs that they've done, most recently for the City Hall liquor store planning. But the project-specific information, of course, is my words and something we can discuss tonight. And then the scope of the work is also something that's very specific and tailored to this project. So if we go to the first part, the specific information, it's really background information for the planners and the public or the board to become familiar with this, why we're doing it really, what the 2009 master plan included, what it didn't include, and that's most notably the marina, in-water marina facilities, docks, that sort of business, break wall. That was really purposely left out of the 2009 plan, given the history and the timing of that. We had just come out of a difficult safe harbor planning process with the DNR, ended very badly, I would say, very disagreeable to a lot of parties involved. That was 2006 was when that failed. And so when we picked up the master plan in 2008 into 2009, there was a clear message from city council and most involved to just stay out of the water, too contentious. Focus on the campground and the landside amenities. And so the 2009 plan was a year-long process, very publicly involved. We had listening sessions, we had stakeholder involvement, we had lots of good comments, lots of good turnout for our meetings with the public to hear their thoughts and their priorities and their values. And out of that came these goals and policies. They're really high-level stuff, not a lot of specifics. And then this conceptual land use map, again, very high level, just showing blocks of land and future uses. But it's been 13 years. We've used those goals and policies often when evaluating projects and priorities and values. We've used that conceptual map. You can directly correlate the community connection to that. That was one of those stars on the map that we went after very early as far as putting in the covered bridge and the pedestrian, ADA compliant access in and out of the park. That was the original community connection. That's something we accomplished in 2011 through 2013. The DNR came to the table around that same time to start the discussions for the Parkside public water access. That too was modeled on the 2009 map, or confirmed that, we'd like public water access down at the end of the road. At the time, it also showed an event pavilion and a large parking lot. And so through that process with the DNR and planning of the Parkside, that evolved. The event pavilion was not compatible. It was moved off-site. The parking was modified, but the project eventually was a success and is now on the ground. And other big changes on that map, the pool was, at the time, was still in the park, but it was proposed to be moved out. The site of the pool was proposed parking, specifically for the marina support. The ball field then became another big piece of that map of future use. The 2009 map shows no ball field and 60-some RV sites. That hasn't happened. The ball field remains. And then I would say the other big piece of that 2009 map was around the office area and how there was this vision for movement of the office, consolidation of the office with the little bathhouse 2. So a new office facility that included bathhouses and sort of visitor lounge experiences off the current location. The current location where the park office is now is more of a turnaround loop, like an easy access area for people to get in and out of the park. So whether or not that's still a vision, we need to confirm, we need to revisit the plan because of change, evolution, and the need for legacy funding is really the bigger push on this. I would say the final bullet point there, number 4, is why we're doing this, right? It's been 13 years. We've accomplished a lot of the vision of that original map, but we need to revise accordingly. We've also got an opportunity now to become regionally significant with the Greater Parks and Trails Commission, but when we did the initial application in 2016, it didn't include our master plan because it's not robust enough. The GMRPTC has some very specific criteria for master plans. There's about 12 bullet points that they present that master plans need to include, and our plan is like half of them. So we feel the time is now to hire a consultant, a planner, and revisit that master plan and make necessary updates and amendments.
Am I correct that paragraphs 3 and 4 are the ones that are unique and not boilerplate?
For sections, well, the entire project-specific information is new. What we've just been talking about on the first page.
The proposal contents?
No, that's pretty boilerplate. Instructions and contents is the typical RFP language. But I've just reviewed the project-specific information that's, unique to us. And really the one point of pause there would be the notion that you, the park board, will act as the steering committee for city council, similar to 2009, right? We go back to 2009, and the park board led the planning process with the planners, but the park board was the steering committee that was in charge of the plan, effectively gathering information, gathering public input, working with the planner directly to prepare and present a plan that city council would adopt. And we just want to check in with park board that we still like that model, that you're still up to that task, may require some additional meetings. But, you know, the alternate would be a separate steering committee that's appointed through city council with, you know, representatives from park board and stakeholders.
And we'd be working pretty much under the direction of the planner that's,
That's right.
you know, it's not like we have to know how to develop the comprehensive plan, but they would give us tasks to do, like hosting meetings. and-
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I think it sounds great. I'm up for it.
You mentioned the safe harbor issue that was tabled back in the prior decade or 2 decades ago. What was that issue about?
Development in the harbor.
So whether there should be construction done
Pro
of
and
some
con.
kind that would make it a better safe harbor, is that it?
Yeah, it was scale, it was size, it was control. There were multiple issues. But it was emotions, it was user groups, birders and boaters and aesthetics and just everything that goes into public planning, particularly in a, you know, harbor setting like ours.
Are you wanting to include that issue in this master planning process again?
Very much so.
Do we need to get some input from the Corps of Engineers, who are the ones who fund the safe harbor program?
Well, there's no longer a safe harbor program,
Oh,
and so the funding is from legacy money.
the funding is,
Through the state, through potential regional significance. If and when the recreation area is designated regionally significant, that gets us into this exclusive club of legacy-funded parks, right? So your extra like 3/8% that you pay in legacy tax, a portion of that is dedicated to outside the metro parks that are regionally significant. We feel we are.
you're saying the feds are out of this business?
Yeah, well, the DNR is.
No, I'm saying the federal Corps of Engineers had funding for
No.
safe harbors years ago, small boat harbors before that they don't anymore. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, the DNR did.
The DNR.
And they don't, and there's no federal funding?
No.
Okay.
No, but the notion that we become regionally significant is why we're, you know, need to make a master plan that meets the criteria for that. And part of that master plan is working with the stakeholders, working with the DNR and the Army Corps and the birders and the boaters, and developing a plan that's suitable and fundable.
So, yeah, so we can't become regionally significant until we do the plan.
Correct.
And then with the funding from the legacy tax, do they have rules about what that legacy funding can be used for? Or can it be used for anything within the plan?
Yeah, I haven't gotten that far to that
Okay.
level, but I presume once your master plan and your park is designated, you use that master plan to then secure the funding. Because part of the master plan criteria is capital improvement planning,
Okay.
future projects that are big ticket items like marina become funded if you're regionally significant and if you have a good plan and you have good partner support and a lot of ifs, ands, or buts.
Right.
But we want to, you know, proceed down this quest.
And so how long does this plan take, the request for proposals and to can do all this? What are we talking?
That's another topic of discussion, right? We have a couple of target dates of maybe we put this out this month, it's the holidays, no one's gonna really look at it until January. So I put in just a January 20th as the deadline for proposals,
Okay,
you know, so in a month and a half or so.
First.
What's that in the first page still?
Yeah.
Right at the bottom of the first page.
Oh, there you go. I got you.
Yeah, it's grayed out as a one, like, variable we don't
Yep.
know yet, but we feel like that's a good target date for the proposals to be.
Any idea how
Available.
many people are in the business of doing master planning for places like us?
A lot.
Pardon?
I don't have a specific number, but a lot,
A lot, okay,
Yeah.
that'll do for today.
yeah. There's no doubt we'll have interest. I always have interest. Past planners have reached out to me saying, are you ready? You know, are you guys ready for your master plan? We're interested. The city is used to working with planners. We'll certainly get a good selection, I would think, to choose from. Top candidates we've already, we're familiar with because we've used them in the past. But just as a target date, we'd like to get proposals in by January, end of January. Timeline-wise, though, this could take 6 months, this could take a year, right? We, again, kind of subject to the public, process and the framework of what the planners are proposing. We're looking for planners and their ideas of how to get the public involved, how to get buy-in, how to get the community and the values of the community.
Any idea of what the overall cost of the process might be?
That's another gray area under basis for compensation. We want to, proposals to include costs. So we're kind of going about this in the vague way of, you tell us what it'll cost, is our request to the proposals. We don't necessarily, haven't set a budget, haven't set a price, but tonight I'd like to set that expectation at least. Maybe it's $50,000 to $100,000, I think is a reasonable range, based on other plans, based on experience with the city. The stormwater management plan they've just recently updated was $85,000.
Did you say 85? Okay. And do we have any external sources of money for this?
We're well-funded in our capital improvement fund. We have that sinking fund that the council's approved already.
Okay,
So-
that's not external, that's our
We've
own
got the
fund.
money, yeah.
We don't, is there any grant money out there that we want to think about?
Possibly, the 09 plan, the coastal program kicked in some money. Superior Coastal Program is interested, they're usually funding plans like this. I think they helped out with the stormwater management plan. So there's potential for grant funding. But we're easily funded through our own budget. But set the expectation at least that it's not gonna be cheap. And it's, are you okay with $100,000? It's kind of the question.
Do you know what it cost in 2009?
If you amortize that over,
25.
if you amortize that over 13 or 15 years, then it might be in use, it's not so bad.
Right. Or that it secures $10 million in
Right.
funding.
Right, yeah, that's the big thing.
That's the big thing.
But there's no guarantee that just by
Yeah.
doing it, you're going to be the regionally significant park.
Right.
There's no guarantee of that.
Not a guarantee. We ranked high in the preliminary scoring, which is
I
a
see
very
that.
good indicator.
Yeah,
And the feedback from the scoring committee was the marina is what makes you significant. So we feel like if we have a robust master plan that includes the marina, we'll continue with that high mark and we'll be accepted.
It seems like the fact that we're the last city before you get to Canada makes it regionally significant most of the time.
Yes and no, there's state parks up and down the shore that provide camping.
I understand that, but
Yeah,
the harbor combined with the camping is unique to this neck of the woods.
Is there any formal talk going on about the point?
no, it's a different piece of property, a different plan, we feel. Like it wouldn't be included in this.
Not any of it?
Not yet, not
Uh-huh.
till the Coast Guard and the federal property is,
Settled?
decided.
Uh-huh.
And that, even back in 16, when I applied as the Grand Marais Recreation Area, I went to a few of the seminars for how to apply, and I asked, like, should we include the golf course and the city parks and the downtown? and the harbor park, and they said, no,
Oh,
be specific,
oh,
only use the campground and the marina.
And so the request for proposal is for taking our current one and amending it and revising it. So there's already a lot of work done there.
We hope, and that we can go into now the scope of work then. So item 3, the scope of work, that's really what we're asking for. And it's this idea that, well, A, you need to, as a planner, you need to show us your plan for engaging the public, right? So item A is, what's your planning framework? How are you gonna make sure the stakeholders are involved, that the public successfully engaged and heard, and then that you're, interested in creating a plan that does that keeps our best interests in mind, that the values and the priorities of the public are represented. That's item A. And that's where we're looking for some creativity and some experience and some really, proven track record for doing good public involvement planning. Item B is that idea of going back to the 2009 plan. The goals and policies are pretty, straightforward, I would say, or very community oriented, so we want to reaffirm those, modify, revise, and amend as needed. There's maybe some talk in there about the pool that can go away, but there's some talk about environmentalism and sustainability that maybe gets beefed up. There's just, that's the idea that we have a 2009 plan, but it's 13 years old, and so let's review it, update it, and amend it, starting with the goals and policies.
And where does that live? Where is it? Where could you see that? Where could I see it?
It's on the city website, I believe. I
Okay.
mean, it's certainly on, I have copies of it. It should be in your binder.
Okay, I don't know, my binder was in there, okay.
Yeah,
But it's on the city website as well.
yeah.
Okay.
It was. I'll have to check with Patrick if it still is. It was on our old park site, but we've since redone that to be more
Right.
just retail consumer site, so. But that's part of this plan. Maybe we create a new website for the plan that people can interact with.
For the next meeting, can we get a copy of the criteria that the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission applies to these things?
so the applications, the city reviews the proposals and schedules, so it's up to the city council.
I feel like the park board will be the first round of review.
Oh, okay.
Like that's, we would look at those proposals in February, make a recommendation to the council.
Okay,
Ultimately, the council would sign the contract, hire the consultant, but the park board's gonna be the review selection committee.
and the consultant, would it be part of their plan, to create a timeline? We have an idea, maybe, or desires, but what they can accomplish, would be part of, okay.
Yeah.
Should what Kate just mentioned be more explicit in the scope of work?
The timeline?
That she was suggesting that there needed to be a timeline in whatever we approve for the planning process. And I'm wondering if that needs to be in the scope of work section.
That's a good point, Steve. I thought it was.
Thank you.
I thought it was mentioned, but I'll make sure it's included. Under compensation, we're sort of asking for a schedule and a cost per hour and estimated number of hours and et cetera, but the timing, the timeline of the planning itself, I can certainly pull out as what we want to see. I think that's best under item A.
It's implicit in that, I agree. It might be useful to creating a proposed timeline.
Is the map in there as
One of
well?
those two places.
Yes.
I thought I had
And
it.
here's where we want to say, I would say a bit open-ended, like do we want it to be short and sweet or long and drawn out or hopefully something in between, right? We don't necessarily want this to go quick and exclude the community.
Isn't it gonna be a two-step process? The consultant's gonna come in and is gonna do a first tally and
what's
say, here are
missing.
the issues that I've identified. How do you want to, or here's how we propose to attack them. Are you comfortable with that? Here are the alternatives, that sort of thing. We would have a sort of a second look at the length of time and the scope of work. You're nodding your head, yes.
I would agree that the consultant's gonna have to review the existing plan and determine what's missing, and then base the timeline on that.
Okay?
And really, we have to be, I think, a little open for, on both, both timeline and budget. Right now, we don't know, but we wanna be okay with X amount of dollars and X amount of time. And if not, like, let me know.
I'm okay with it being open-ended. It's just that I think that the consultant needs to give us an idea of what they're thinking about the timeline is as part of their proposal.
So
Or
is,
choices of the timeline.
your instructions for for 4 PM on January 20th, is that too tight, do you think, given the holidays and things, and?
I don't know.
I don't know, I have no idea. I'm
I
curious.
doubt it. I think 3 weeks in January is enough.
Okay.
I think a lot of these planners are used to this, and they've done it for other cities, and they're gonna kinda,
So a quick turnaround, they're okay with it. I mean, they're used to it, so. I'm just curious, because it's, I like the time frame right there of January 20th. I think that moves us along, at least at this portion of it. And then the timeline from there, we're not so sure, but to get them all in by then, I think it's a great thing.
yeah, if we wanna get this accomplished in the next year,
Yeah,
we gotta get on it.
Right.
okay.
Be sensitive to the summer season and how it's really hard to get public input during the height of tourist season,
Definitely.
or, staff time. So,
Yeah, and I think the marina is gonna be the bigger piece that's missing, that's gonna be how much time we're gonna spend talking about the marina. I think it's gonna be a good amount.
Because that was a big stickler on the last one, and you left that out.
Yeah, that was, I think, DNR and the Safe Harbor program, that was at least a 2-year deal. That was '04 to '06. But we learned a lot. We came away with, I think, a lot of what we don't want. And, now we move forward with what we do, or what would work in a smaller scale, a northwest corner, right? We're currently in that northwest corner with the marina. We're in a dead-end breakwater scenario that's not good for the environment, not good for the boaters. So there's definitely a win-win in reconfiguring the existing marina to be open and flushing and drive-through service. And, I've already got great ideas for the plan.
I bet.
But we need to hear from everyone and move forward. And particularly for funding, because the Safe Harbor program's no longer available. Army Corps is not gonna spend money on this either. It's gonna be an internal capital improvement plan to, improve the marina.
Or if we could get legacy funding for that, or IRRB.
Combination.
Okay, well,
When does legacy expire?
Good question,
It's
Bob.
about halfway gone, isn't it?
35.
35? So we're halfway, almost halfway there.
Yeah, and I just saw the report on all the new funding they released, and I think they funded everybody who applied, so it's
Yeah.
maybe a good sign that the backlog of applications is starting to wane, and now they're, looking for new ones.
Yeah.
well, we'd like to be part of that, sure. Anybody else have anything they want to talk about, either about this subject or any new subject?
With new legislators on board, you may need to retour the marina with the new guys.
Good point.
Hofschell doesn't know anything about it, and whoever wins the recount, well, Rob would, but the new guy wouldn't know anything about it.
Right.
So they should rewalk it.
The bad news for the incumbent was there were no changes in the vote totals in our county.
Half a change.
He still
Half of
needs,
one vote,
change.
half of one vote.
oh, I missed that
Yeah.
somewhere along the way.
2,200 votes, and one of them was iffy in marking.
In all events, he needed 15. And so far, Trump hasn't said we need 16 votes to anybody.
But he's been our boy to carry the water, for a long time, so. And Bach's gone. So, need to scramble a bit.
Well, I think the time here is right too for momentum with the new boat launch being successfully completed and the demonstration of thoughtful redevelopment on the harbor with the DNR. Well, I was real purposeful about that project being scaled correctly and community supported to really regain that trust.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
You know, if we have a tour, like Bob suggests, of the new guys or the old one, if he makes it, it might be good to have some DNR people as part of that, huh?
So are you looking for anything specific from us, from this, or just?
Yeah, motion of let's go would be fine.
I move, let's go.
I'll second that.
Well, you're moving to proceed with the RFP.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with the finance and the timing at your discretion for
Yeah,
the next 2 months.
yeah.
In reflecting the comments that you've received today.
Yeah.
All right? Is there a
it's
motion
good.
to that effect?
He made it.
He made it.
Did you make it? Oh,
Yeah, and then with awareness that the legacy funding looks like it's infinite, but it's gonna run out,
Yeah.
and that's a big deal, and reauthorizing that is no guarantee.
So, the motion is to approve the sending out of the request for proposals.
Turn Dave loose,
Yeah.
turn Dave
Second.
loose.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Unanimous? Motion to adjourn.
Well, before we leave, there's $17 billion in a DFL-controlled legislature, and we should just be attentive to that.
What was 106, we have 17 billion?
17 billion in a DFL legislature, and we should be attentive, because they're gonna fight over where it goes, and you wanna have your hand up.
Right.
And we got new guys, and it's a great time to have your hand way up, because there's gonna be a lot of noise for that money.
I want to see that in there.
As inflation is 20%.
Hands up.
That suggests off the record that we probably want to identify those people who are Republicans, because bonding bills require 60%.
And our new rep may well be a Republican.
Right.
Yeah,
So we have to be attentive and diverse.
that's right.
Do you want to adjourn, Steve?
I think
Adjourn?
We didn't get a second or a motion.
What?
I motion to adjourn.
No, he did it. I thought,
Well, he had a question.
did I miss that? Okay,
He
you moved
stopped
to
it.
adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All
Yeah,
those in
you don't
favor
need
say
to
aye.
second.
Aye.
Same sign, opposed?
Bye.
All right, we're done.
Are you gonna edit this thing